Galimera, Galispera, Galinichta, no matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be. Thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It's January. It's not quite silly season, but there is a so called transfer season. And here to answer some questions pertaining to the Arsenal is one of your favourites. Let's rock and roll, squaddies. It's a new week, it's a blank canvas.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
If you see him looking at his screen, typing away or checking his phone, it's because the madness is certainly ensuing this Monday evening. Welcome back to Squad Central. One of my favorites, Mr. Ben Jacobs.
Great to be back.
By the way, good Christmas. I mean, I can't wish you a happy new year. It's too late now, but I'm going to. Apparently they say, the statute of wishing someone a happy new year is over, but Ben, happy new year.
I always think it's 2 weeks. If you see someone for the first time, why not wish them a happy new year?
Happy New Year to you. I know you're a busy man, so I'm going to get stuck right into it. Squaddies at ease, welcome. Don't forget to listen to our Chief Like Officer, Tammy Steels, and hit that like button. It helps the channel. Ben, before we get to some Arsenal news, breaking news, big time. It was on the cards, but Alonso and Real Madrid have parted ways, and another ex-Liverpool man takes over. What's happening in Real Madrid? Is Mbappe ruling that dressing room again?
Yeah, I think there's an element of player power, but ultimately at a club like Real Madrid, you can't even afford quite good form, and you certainly can't get away with losing in Saudi Arabia in the Spanish Super Cup to your fiercest rivals, and they're behind them in the league as well. But it feels to me, speaking to sources, like there's a little bit more to this. The first point is that Alonso had fallen out with Vinny Jr. and Real Madrid are keen to try and extend Vinny Jr.'s contract. Rodrigo was frozen out in the early part of his tenure. Not every Real footballer really liked playing in the 4-4-2. Some players or sources close to them argued that he had favourites and he was quite stubborn in training. But I have to say, in fairness to Alonso, quite the opposite at Leverkusen. Maybe there's just a point of difference in egos and dressing rooms, but all the players loved him at Leverkusen. He did win silverware and he proved himself at that particular club to be very tactically flexible. So two sides to every story, but ultimately the quickness of the decision to get rid of him in the aftermath of the Spanish Super Cup loss to Barcelona was also in part down to the fact that Alvaro Arbeloa, also, as you say, ex-Liverpool, was right there and could be lined up. It's very interesting that the official statement doesn't use the word caretaker or interim. So there is a chance that Arbeloa could be there for quite some time. But when we get to the summer, let's ultimately see, because the likes of Zinedine Zidane and a few other names, even some say Luis Enrique, despite the fact PSG make it clear it's fake news that he could leave in 2026 and his contract is until 2027. But definitely Real wouldn't be short of options and people that would want the job if they choose to make another more imminent change. But at the moment, we're led to believe Alvaro Arbeloa is the permanent, not caretaker manager, and Xabi Alonso going very quickly after that defeat to Barcelona in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I always say to, Real Madrid or Real Madrid, but when you look around and you see what's kind of happening with Tottenham and Manchester United and Chelsea, I'm very grateful for the owners we have and the stability that the club has. Ben, another hijack maybe this evening. I got to get your take on this because the Nemesis have gotten involved in the Conor Gallagher situation. It felt like maybe Aston Villa were the favourites. What's the news there?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's a fascinating situation. And again, don't want to go too much into Tottenham business on an Arsenal show, but we know that after the injury to Rodrigo Bentancur, even though we can't exactly say profile-wise he's like for like with Conor Gallagher, Gallagher, though, is versatile enough that he can play in a range of different positions. And even before the Bentancur injury, hamstring out for about 3 months and requires surgery, Tottenham were looking for a midfielder. And if you add to the fact that they are indecisive as to whether they want to permanently sign João Paulinho, this is an area where Spurs, trying to back Thomas Frank, have to move. So the situation is as follows. This morning, Villa woke up and thought they might be able to get a loan with a conditional obligation. And that conditional obligation would have been relatively easy to become an actual obligation. So for those that are unfamiliar, conditional obligation basically means it's a buy option, but if certain criteria are met, then there's a mandatory purchase. And usually when a club like Atleti are saying we're only going to sell the player if it's permanent, to agree to a conditional obligation, it tells you, and Atleti sources back this up, that if it's the Villa deal, it's relatively easy to trigger. So Atleti will consider it as good as a permanent exit for Conor Gallagher. And the terms of that deal that were pretty much agreed verbally were 30 million for the conditional obligation in euros, but then a significant loan fee between 5 and 7 million and full wage coverage. So still give or take approaching 40 million euros. And then from the perspective of Tottenham, they've come in with a different approach this evening, only really in the last few hours in terms of formalizing their interest. They held some talks yesterday, but they were very much initial. And this evening is first broken by the excellent David Ornstein, who obviously brings you quite a lot of Arsenal news as well. The bid is an outright purchase, which obviously Atletico Madrid favour, for in the region of 40 million euros, with very preferable payment terms from Tottenham's perspective. And now we have to wait and see how it's going to play out. So Tottenham sources expressed confidence, but there were some very credible reports out there from only a few hours ago that say Gallagher favours Unai Emery and Aston Villa. I'm not so sure. Asking around, I think there's a fair chance that Tottenham land Gallagher. But at the moment, Villa and Tottenham both feeling they can agree a deal with Atletico Madrid and waiting for that final green light from the player. And it looks like, speaking to sources in the last hour, that Tottenham haven't formalised their interest without knowing that Gallagher is prepared to entertain a move to Spurs, even though, of course, he has very strong Chelsea links. And it doesn't seem like that Cobham background has put him off potentially moving to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
All right, shifting gears now to the Arsenal, and a player who is very much in demand. Looked like he was literally seconds away from joining Liverpool in the summer. Marc Guehi, Ben, there's talk about January interest, of course, from Manchester City and Liverpool. Apparently, Arsenal have expressed serious interest for maybe a summer move. There was talk at one time about Bayern Munich as well. What's your take on Guéhi? What's the latest? What do you think's really going on there?
Yeah, my info is that Marc Guehi is not in a desperate rush to leave, which is obviously good news from Arsenal's perspective. And as simple as it sounds, it's all on the player, because Crystal Palace are open to a sale. They want, believe it or not, more, not less than the 35 million that Liverpool agreed over the summer. And the reason for that is because Palace's perspective in this predominantly sellers market is, if they're to sell Guéhi, even with good money, they themselves might have to overpay to find a replacement. And that's why the transfer fee is really high, given the player's only got 6 months left on his deal. But if Man City, the most likely mid-season suitor, decide to go that high, then Palace won't be a problem. They will sanction an exit and they'll back themselves to find a replacement in the last few weeks of the window. But Guéhi is the problem, because as you can imagine, if he goes now, yes, he would walk into an injured defence and play. And naturally, he's going to make the World Cup squad likely regardless, but it can still be quite unsettling. And it doesn't give him the opportunity to take his pick of suitors as a free agent. And when you're a free agent, you can define things you can't when there's a fee much more in your control, such as a big sell-on fee or a big sign-on fee or a big wage. And by the way, when I say sell-on fee, I mean that. So we're not talking about the percentage that the clubs take. What we're saying is a player can actually, as we saw with Michael Olise, get a percentage if they exit a club as well. So you can basically get an incoming and an outgoing fee, and you can get a larger wage as a free agent. So that's one consideration for Guéhi. Does he wait because it's more in his interest financially to go in the summer? Second of all, because he's got the stability of playing and captaining Crystal Palace. Again, you move in the summer, it's a more natural parting of ways. And finally, you can pretty much pick your club because there'll be a much higher volume of interest if Guéhi's a free agent versus £35 million or more when he's only got 6 months left on his contract. The interested clubs are Arsenal and still Liverpool and Manchester City, whether for now or for the summer in City's case. As you say, Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Inter, and historically Barcelona. But I'm told Barca held a meeting with the player side. He's not particularly greedy, but as you can imagine, he wants to be a top 5 or top 10 Premier League earner. And Barcelona's finances are tough. So Guéhi's wage demands might be a little bit too much for them. So I don't think Barca are any longer as big a front runner as maybe they were a few months ago. But all the other clubs are still there and in the mix. And I think from Arsenal's point of view, it's obvious that the timing isn't right now to add another centre-back, but it might be in the summer. And Guéhi will have to establish whether or not he backs himself to be playing regularly and starting enough games when there's 2 world-class centre-backs already at Arsenal Football Club. It's a bit different for Liverpool, firstly because they got the player buy-in over the summer, and that hasn't gone away. So maybe it gives them an advantage. And second of all, Virgil van Dijk's age and the fact he's only got 1 more year left on his contract, coupled with the fact that Ibrahima Konate hasn't signed, means if you look at it now, he might not play every week because they could, in theory, stick with Virgil and with Konate. But by summer, the landscape may have changed. Konate may not be there. Even if Guéhi isn't getting regular starts and game time for 1 year, it's very unlikely, I'm told, that Virgil van Dijk will get offered another extension and suddenly you're the natural heir as the left-sided centre-backs. There's a lot to like about Liverpool, but don't discount Arsenal because they want another elite centre-back. And don't discount Guéhi, by the way, because when you sell it now, you think, how on earth would a player, even of his quality, break up that Arsenal partnership? And we should give credit to the fact that Mosquera is there as well and naturally has a huge future ahead of himself. But I think from Arsenal's point of view, they want that competition and it's how it should be. You know, if Arsenal can be Premier League winners, you go into the next season and you don't want to take anything for chance. So you're trying to sign another elite person. You're trying to put pressure on the players that you've got. You're trying to sign a younger defender, even though the Arsenal back line can hardly be called old at all. And that's why I think Arsenal back themselves to potentially enter the race. But I think at this stage, it's relatively open. And it wouldn't remotely surprise me if Guéhi actually decides not to move mid-season and instead gambles on the fact that come summer, he can take his pick of clubs. And I think you're muted.
I am muted. Ben, speaking of Arsenal defence, a little rumour brewing today about Everton being interested in Benjamin White. I don't know if you've heard anything around Benjamin White in this transfer window yet. What are you hearing about Benjamin? Clearly, his quality coming back from an injury adds so much value. I think the fear for Arsenal fans is we're going to start losing players that we actually like. But is Benjamin looking?
I'm not aware that he's overly agitating to leave, but by the same token, if the right offer arrives, I think that you'll find both Benjamin White and Arsenal have a conversation. Whether or not that's going to be mid-season remains to be seen. From Everton's point of view, they are looking to strengthen in that area. I've got to be honest, I haven't made too many inquiries on it yet, so nothing specific to add on Everton and White. But from Arsenal and White's perspective, it's been a relatively difficult few months, simply because from White's point of view, I think he understands, regardless of form or fitness, that in the long run, it might be best to start looking elsewhere. And I think that is a compliment to where Arsenal are at and the options they either have or they might bring in. Fantastic player, still very popular with the fan base. And it always felt like there was this big issue with England, but there was no issue with Arsenal. But my understanding is that he's starting to wonder in the next, let's say, year to 2 years, is there going to be that ability to play every week? Is there going to be that chance to hold down a starting spot or is he going to slide further down the pecking order? And that's not something I think that makes the player feel particularly confident about being a squad player at Arsenal, even if they end up winning trophies for fun. And that is also a point of difference between Edu and Andrea Berta as well, because Edu was quite prepared to keep the depth. He was quite prepared to work with the football team to understand who was going to get squad opportunities. I think Berta's a bit more cutthroat and would be prepared to sanction an exit, even if it means he has to then go out there and back himself in the market to bring someone in as well. So nothing necessarily advancing or brewing imminently at this stage. I'll obviously let you know if it changes, because we're heading into the point of a window where things can move very fast. But at this stage, I think there is a willingness for White and Arsenal to have a conversation about maybe a medium to long-term exit, but I've got nothing at this stage to add specifically on Everton.
Yeah, he's definitely a player that we completely love and adore, brings a different dimension, added the shithousery and the dark arts, but also such a good quality player. And we talk about that squad depth, and to have a player like Benjamin White be able to come in and deputize and be versatile, fundamentally important. You talk about pecking order. A player that has fallen down the pecking order, Ben, is Ethan Nwaneri, struggling to even come on as a sub in certain games. There was huge fanfare, of course, when Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan signed their contracts. What are you hearing about Nwaneri? You know, there's rumblings about Bournemouth and some London clubs, but what's going on with Ethan, do you think, here? What's the reality?
Yeah, I think we need to wait right until the end of the window, because I'm led to believe that it's not impossible a loan gets done, and it wouldn't have a permanence aspect to it, of course, because he only recently signed a new deal. But you may remember, and it's really easy to rewrite history because he did sign the new deal, but maybe in the month before that new deal was signed, there was a hesitancy. And it's really easy to sort of paper over that because he signed and put it down to rogue reporting, creating tension that was unnecessary, because obviously the player wanted to stay at Arsenal and play. But there definitely was a small period, to my understanding, of, okay, I want to stay at this club. I love this club. My priority is this club. But what happens if I'm not playing? And it's kind of unfortunate, because at the time, the pacification around the new deal, if you can call it that, and maybe that word is a bit of an exaggeration because there was never any acrimony. Player wanted to stay, club wanted to keep him. But the conversation, let's call it, was, don't worry, because even when Saka's fit, and with Noni Madueke arriving, you're going to get time through the centre as well. And we want to protect that pathway so you'll get minutes. And the same thing was said to Noni Madueke. Don't worry, if Saka comes in, you can go over and play on the left-hand side as well. And players, when they hear that, are satisfied, and he signed a new deal. Then Kai Havertz got injured, and Arsenal decided to come back in for Eberechi Eze, and it was only going to end one way against Tottenham when they did so. But suddenly, Eze is viewed as a player through the centre. And if he's not playing there, even though he's actually not getting anything at the moment in recent games, but if he's not playing there, the left-hand side is an option as well. So suddenly, Noni Madueke is thinking, am I the left backup, the right backup? Am I both? Am I going to get minutes? And he's very happy, because as it turns out, he's fit, getting a lot of opportunities. But it's the opposite for Ethan Nwaneri. He's not getting a chance on the right. He's not getting a chance through the centre. So, of course, the club and him have to sit down, knowing in the long run, they think that they've got a future together, and knowing there's no acrimony, and knowing he's just recently signed a new deal, but minutes would be very beneficial. And it would not at all surprise me if a move within the Premier League comes up in the final days of the window, and Arsenal are prepared to sanction a loan with no buy option. And you're absolutely right that Bournemouth are one of the clubs that have taken a look. Their number one priority was actually to sign Brennan Johnson, but he went to Crystal Palace. Fulham could be another option as well. The only real thing putting Fulham off is they want to sign a permanent winger. And part of backing Marco Silva in trying to get him to finally sign a new deal is not bandages and stopgaps and back to square ones in the summer, even if the player has a really beneficial interest. And we know that Fulham and Arsenal have done a fair amount of business. But for them, they ideally want permanence, because that's probably their only way of getting Marco Silva to finally sign the deal. Everton have taken a look as well. Sunderland are exploring someone on the right-hand side, but I think they'll be more a young squad player than a starter because they've got options out there and they're in form. So there will be several Premier League clubs interested, but it all depends on Arsenal. And again, I'm told the player's not there knocking on the door going, I must leave in January, I want minutes, I'm unhappy. But he is aware that he's falling down the pecking order as it stands, and his best way of climbing back up is obviously going and showing what he can do regularly in the Premier League. And that's why I think if the right offer comes, Arsenal might be open to a mid-season loan.
What else pertaining to Arsenal, Ben? Do you think there's a January surprise? Of course, I think that we spent, a lot of our WOD in the summer and the squad seems settled. We've got the depth, players coming back from injury right now. But do you think anything else could be cooking for the Arsenal? Most fans, I think, accept that it's going to be a non-active January transfer window. But I guess you never know.
Yeah, by the way, you shouldn't accept it's going to be a non-January active window. You should celebrate that because it means that they had a strong summer, they're on track, and they feel that they've got everything they need to win a bunch of silverware. So a quiet window can be a really good thing, and an active window can be the byproduct, particularly in January, of panic. So we're not expecting a massive amount from Arsenal, at least not senior level. Igor Tyjon, the Blackburn striker, hasn't signed a professional contract. And the only way that Blackburn can get a fee on his current terms is by selling him now. So that could be one to watch. Certainly talks have taken place. A lot of people are reporting there'd be a fee in the region of 1 million. I don't have that information yet. Sources I speak to are adamant that if a fee is to be agreed, we're not there yet. And they're steering me away from that number. I don't know if it means it's going to be lower or higher, but either way, we're not quite there yet. But he is obviously one to watch. And then let's wait and see what the next couple of weeks bring, because you can pick up an injury. You can suddenly decide you need something that's going to get you over the line in the Premier League or the Champions League. So we can never say never, because one thing I can tell you about Andrea Berta from Atletico Madrid is if there's a market opportunity deal there to be had, then Arsenal are absolutely prepared to go all in. But where there's a challenge is that there are areas that Arsenal would like to strengthen in, but they know that they've got to get rid of a few players first. So in 2026, starting left winger, absolutely on the radar, but likely Gabriel Martinelli and or Leandro Trossard would have to depart. Wouldn't surprise me in the summer if a number 2 goalkeeper comes in, because Kepa, to my knowledge, as much as he loves Arteta and the culture and the atmosphere, still in his head he's a number 1 goalkeeper, which is strange because you chose to join Arsenal knowing David Raya is the number 1 goalkeeper. So nobody can fault Arsenal's approach there. They pulled off an outstanding bit of business at a low number, and Kepa knew he was coming in as a number 2. But sometimes you make that move, and then after a while, as a goalkeeper, it can be quite a lonely place. And the brilliance of Berta on that deal is if Kepa's sold, because he spent most of his life as a number 1, and I think it was when Chelsea signed him, he was a world record fee for a goalkeeper. So they're going to turn a profit on Kepa, whether he plays 1 game, 5 games, or 100 games as the Arsenal number 2. But I'm not so sure that will be a long-term number 2 signing, even though, of course, if you're greedy and you're Arsenal, you love the fact that you've got 2 quality goalkeepers. So that, for me, will be one to watch in the summer, but I'm not expecting him to go mid-season either. So for me, if they do anything in these final few days or weeks, it will be a younger player for under 23s, under 21s, or for the future. And if they sign someone more senior, it might be bad news, because ultimately it would suggest that they're having to do something out of urgency due to injury. And I also think, by the way, if Man City end up spending 35 million on Marc Guehi in January, I'm not so sure it will be like the Semenya saga where we saw City move, so other clubs moved, and suddenly there were all manner of teams exploring it at the last minute, because you've either got to move or miss out. I think if City put down 35 million for Marc Guehi, Arsenal are more inclined to walk away rather than enter that race and make a surprise mid-season signing. So yeah, quiet January is expected, but you can never say never, and that's the beauty of the window.
Okay, Ben, I promised I would get you out at the top of the hour with all the breaking news going on today. So I'm going to get you out on this one, which might be a little bit complicated, which is why I've allowed
Dear.
5 minutes for it. So you have to be living under a rock to not be hearing all of the narrative about Victor Gyokeres and Kai Havertz. And I just wanted to kind of get your take on, I know it's crazy, I'm just throwing it out there, but with Kai Havertz being back, we all know that he's Mikel's number one guy. Jesus was Mikel's number one guy. The two of them certainly suit Mikel's system, the way he likes to play, a lot more than Victor Gyokeres. You and I talked about Gyokeres and Sesko and, throughout the summer. And some Arsenal fans are like, if we sold Victor Gyokeres in the summer, what kind of fee could we get? What's your take on this situation? Some Arsenal fans still think we need another striker. What are the rumblings out there? Are people looking at Gyokeres as a bust?
No, I mean, when they signed Victor Gyokeres, they spent big money, and they did so because he played in England. His age was a bit older, but he had a proven track record. And everybody at Arsenal backed him to succeed. And the internal confidence in Victor Gyokeres hasn't gone away, but his form hasn't warranted the price tag yet. And he hasn't replicated his scoring record at Sporting. So naturally, Arsenal will have to assess that. And the striker situation is more pertinent in terms of what they do in 2026, because there's a chance that Gabby Jesus is sold. There's interest from Brazil and Saudi Arabia, and Kai Havertz can be utilised as a number 9, but under Mikel Arteta, he's played in a variety of positions. So regardless of the Gyokeres situation, Arsenal are in the market for another 9, and they always have been. So what's going to be interesting is, do they stick to plan 1, which is, we're going to give Gyokeres another season, we're going to persist with him, and he's going to find a rich vein of form, and this season is just down to acclimatization. And if they win things and Gyokeres is still below par, then you can sort of double down on that and say, well, even without him scoring 20 plus goals like other strikers, Erling Haaland, Igor Thiago, etc., we've still won things. So give him another season, and it's a long summer anyway. So you can start the season and the window's still open for a couple of weeks. But if they go down that route, it's going to be a young 9, a target man. And that's where a name like Etta Ayong that I've mentioned before comes up as one possibility. So that has always sort of been the plan in their head, that Jesus might leave, that Havertz is likely to stay because he's versatile, that Gyokeres is your senior striker, and that somebody like, not definitely him, but like in profile, Etta Ayong comes in. If they don't back Gyokeres, they may say, we now need another elite senior striker. You keep Victor Gyokeres at the club. Maybe you even reconsider the Gabby Jesus sale or Kai Havertz, because you've got to make room. Because I don't think we're going to see Gyokeres exit. So he's either going to stay at the club and succeed through to at least summer 2027, or he's going to fall down the pecking order and still stay at the club. And there's no way you can get rid of him after a season anyway without making a book loss. So he's going to get time. It's just, does he get time as a starter, or does he fall down the pecking order? And that's the thing we don't know at the moment. Do they go all in on another elite 9 and keep Gyokeres, or do they stick with plan A, which is Gyokeres is going to work and a younger striker comes in that can really grow into the role but might need a little bit more time? And I don't think they have the answer to that at this point, nor do I think Arsenal are particularly worried about it yet. Firstly, because we're only midway through the season. Secondly, because they're top of the table. And third of all, because there are other goals throughout the entire squad. So this, for me, is something they'll assess in the summer, regardless of Gyokeres' form. Of course, they'll hope he turns the corner in the second half of the season. But just keep that in your sort of head, that right now, Berta's looking at young 9s. Gabby Jesus is the one that could leave. And a lot of the money and energy and focus is on a starting left winger, a box office name, which is where we hear links with Yildiz or obviously Rodrigo historically as well. But if they pivot, they might turn budget to a more senior number 9 And even though that doesn't spell the end for Victor Gyokeres, it will tell you that they've changed their plan, and maybe they think another starting 9 could come in, and Victor Gyokeres will have to compete to ultimately wear that shirt. And I would imagine that Berta and Mikel Arteta won't make a determination on if that's what they're going to pivot to until the summer. And if Gyokeres does well and a younger name comes in, then it tells you that they're doubling down on their backing for the Swedish striker.
Wow. I haven't given up on him yet, Ben. And I think a lot of Arsenal fans talk about Pires and Bergkamp and Henry settling in. And some will say, well, look at their talent. We only knew the exceptional talent that was in their rise at Arsenal. They came in with great pedigree, of course, but it's a bit 6-1, half a dozen of the other, how we play and how he's doing. But we appreciate you, Ben, and we thank you for coming on a night when things are breaking quickly and fast. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before
I'm
we
going
let
to go
you
and break
go?
something on Conor Gallagher as soon as I get off this
Okay,
call.
good luck.
I'm sure other things will happen. We're seeing a manager sacked about every 2 days. So like I say, quiet January is not a bad thing, because many of the busy clubs have got urgency and panic. And for Arsenal, they're just staying the course, supporting what they've got, trying to have stability. And we all know that when you've got stability and confidence, it tends to lead to silverware.
We like that. I'm going to stay on, Ben. I'm going to let you go. Follow Ben at Jacobs Ben. See you later, Ben. Take care.
All the best.
We
Speak
appreciate
soon.
you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Ben will be back throughout the end of the January week to talk to us a little bit more about transfers, keep us up to speed and up to date with what might be going on. I think we've all resigned ourselves to there not really being a January surprise for the Gunners. He is a great guest. We really appreciate him coming on. I'm going to read out some of your comments because I was curious to ask him about Gyokeres. Cincinnati cracked me up. Did you see Arteta's face light up when he spoke about Havertz? Yeah, it's his boy, isn't it? Terence says, we've not seen the slightest improvement from Gyokeres and he's played nearly all the games. Well, you know, I think I'm starting to border on a lot of these comments that are being made about Victor Gyokeres is now actually an insult to Mikel Arteta. Yeah, you heard it. People who there's critiquing Victor Gyokeres as a player, and there's the Harry Maguire-esque. I was talking to Albert about this, and he planted a seed in my head. The Harry Maguire-esque bullying. It just became fun to take the piss out of Harry Maguire, no matter what he did, right? People were actually willing Harry Maguire to fail in games so they could take to social media and enjoy in the ridicule. And I believe that's happening a little bit now with Victor Gyokeres. And I'm sorry to say this out loud, but our fans have a lot to do with the vitriolic coverage that Victor Gyokeres is getting online, on TV shows, from premier journalists at broadsheet newspapers and tabloids. We're contributing to this. I don't mind you not thinking Victor Gyokeres is talented, is a decent player, is a failure, is a bust. But the manner in which you go about talking about him, or the manner in which you continually choose to have hot takes about him, articles about him, I just find it incredible that nobody is leading with Isak being a potential total bust for Liverpool. The amount of money that they've spent on Isak. I mean, we're talking 120 million plus. Or was it more than that? Wirtz is starting to play a little bit better. Sure. Sesko scored 2 goals in his last Premier League game. Once Sesko starts scoring more goals, which he probably will, it will get even worse for Victor Gyokeres because that'll be the comparison, right? But when you look at any of these big-time signings from the summer, who is really shining? Who's taken off? I'm not talking about the Zubimendis who've been so effective. You're talking about the Isaks, the Seskos, the Gyokereses, and the Wirtz. And I think it's a little bit distasteful that the focus is solely on Gyokeres being a total and utter bust. And some of our own influencers are doing it, reporters, fans alike. It's a joy, okay? It is a joy to have these three players at the club. I talked about it on social media over the weekend and said that these three players will all contribute in different ways. We know the blueprint for Kai and Gabriel Jesus. We really do. Victor Gyokeres is trying to operate within a system that he wasn't built to play in. But don't be mistaken by the fact that this is how Mikel wants him to play. And I said it before, and I'll say it again, that Martinelli was the last scapegoat, I remember well. Everyone was calling for him to be sold. Everyone was complaining about how he played. And I was saying he may not be playing the way you want. He's playing the way Mikel wants him to play. I'm not saying that Victor Gyokeres is a huge success. I'm not calling it that. And people are misinterpreting my take on Gyokeres. People said, so if you keep defending him, God, stop beating a dead horse. No, he's an Arsenal player who wears an Arsenal shirt. And the way he's being treated, people are forgetting the same people who were shitting on Kai Havertz, all right, are the same people lauding him now. The same people who had a pop at people like me early on and others and squaddies when we weren't sure about Mikel Arteta. How can you, he's the manager, you got to support him, you got to, are the same people who are shitting on Victor Gyokeres right now. There's covering a player, and then there's incessantly bullying, I think. For me, it's bordering on that. You guys can think I'm soft. You guys can think I'm talking out my behind. You can think anything you want. But he is being covered totally differently. And I will go back to Mikel Arteta. Do you guys really think Mikel Arteta is playing Gyokeres because he feels bad for him? A lot of people are talking about he's playing him because he wants him to build confidence. There is so much at stake in football. There is so much at stake for the Arsenal this season. There's a potential legacy here in reach. And I believe now those people who are poo-pooing Victor Gyokeres are actually insulting Mikel Arteta for even starting him. He's not a fool. Mikel's not an idiot. There's a reason, and there's a rhyme and a reason to what he's doing. And Kenny Ken put it perfectly for me. Maybe he is a professional decoy. Mikel Arteta is making the most with what he's been given. Because if you believe reports, he didn't want Gyokeres, he wanted Sesko. But what he's doing is he's utilizing Gyokeres in a way that helps him and the team. Whether you like it or not, there is evidence. And James from Loose Cannons and the Gooniverse did a fantastic piece on Victor Gyokeres, outlining kind of where the wins are, whether they're small or big wins in terms of positional movement. And I know, like, he looks sluggish, he looks slow in places. He's not lit the world on fire, but Mikel Arteta is playing him for a reason. So I really think those people that think that he's a total worthless bust are now insulting Mikel's football intelligence, because Mikel would be starting Mikel Merino, no? The dude wants to win. He's desperate to win. You and I want to win. We don't want to win as much as Mikel Arteta. Right? Nobody does. That's the truth of it. He's responsible and accountable for the whole enchilada. That dude is desperate to win. Why wouldn't he be playing Mikel Merino up front week in, week out? At the end of the day, he chooses the team. Are we now saying that he's being forced to play Victor Gyokeres? Mikel's not like that. He's not going to listen to any type of dictatorship. That doesn't happen at the Arsenal. And we're top of the league, and we're top of the Champions League. So there's arguments to both sides. There's rationale to both sides. But the manner in which it's being handled, not only within our own Arsenal ecosystem, as I've said, but within the media, I find exceptionally distasteful. Um, let's see. BX Gunner says a goal machine comes with or develops an ego, and Arteta can't have that. Certain Arsenal fans are such a cancer on the club. Personally, I don't think we need a decoy, says Misunderstood Ninja. We need a goal machine. So this is an interesting argument too. The goal machine versus what we're seeing now. Everyone says goal machine, but then you'll hear so many people talk about Arsenal or a team that scores goals by committee. I always reference the 22-23 season, 15, 15, 15, 15, 4 players, double-digit assists. Where are those players scoring goals? And where is our creative force? The chances that are being created. There's such a shift in the Premier League in terms of, we talk about Mikel Arteta not wanting to lose, but I think there's an approach in football in general that managers, there's too much at stake. So a lot of managers set up not to lose versus to win. And I believe that we've seen a dip in creativity in the league. We've seen a dip in the Eden Hazard, Alexis Sanchez, get you off your seat type players. Players are being pigeonholed. They're being told to play a certain way. And that's why you see sideways, backwards, passing. It has become a pandemic in the Premier League. It is not exciting. It really isn't. And I don't think anyone in particular has played sensational, sexy football this season. I think you're seeing pragmatic. You're seeing moments of brilliance, but you're seeing almost, in some cases, some games you watch is like watching paint dry. It's just boring. And right now, we're the best of the boring bunch. And I'll take that this season if it means winning the title. I do. I will. Look, I know that Madueke missed a penalty. It was horrible, his penalty, right? But I love watching him play football. He's exciting. He takes the ball and he's unpredictable and you don't quite know what he's going to do with it. There are very few players like him. I say if you can combine Noni's approach play with Saka's end product, you'll have a sensational player. His end product really needs improving, whereas Saka's end product is just sublime, But there's an unpredictability to Noni in his approach play that I think has a different edge to Bukayo Saka. And some folks, again, may disagree with that vehemently and passionately. I'm not saying he's a better player than Saka, but I like the unpredictability that he presents. It's the same with Eze, right? And there's a reason why Eze isn't starting. And a lot of people point to the mistake against Aston Villa. Maybe he's lost a little bit of confidence. But you don't see Mikel pushing Eze into the team. He's playing Gyokeres. He could play Trossard in that 9 role. He could play Martinelli. He could have been playing Mikel Merino. But he continues to have faith in Gyokeres because Mikel's happy with Victor taking 4 defenders with him and spaces opening up for Trossard on the left or Saka on the right. Mikel doesn't mind that. You fans mind that, but Mikel doesn't mind that. So why isn't he showing the same faith in Eze? Putting Eze in there, pushing on Eze to play and play back into form. There's a method to the madness. And it took me a long time to accept Mikel in the fact that I couldn't see, the light at the end of the tunnel. 3 years ago, I was like, what is going on here? But regardless of all that I've said about the sexy football and all of that stuff, I'm happy with pragmatic, boring Mikel Arteta Arsenal this season because we've got to get the monkey off our back and we have got to win this title. And you do that with this selection. You do that having Kai Havertz back and Jesus. People talk about January signings. These two could end up being the best faux January signings we've ever had. Think Teddy Sheringham and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Manchester United do not win the treble in that year without Sheringham and Solskjaer being super subs. They single-handedly put the icing on the cake against Bayern Munich in the Champions League final. We've craved to have deep squads, players who can offer something different. Whether Mikel tweaks the system to make that difference count, that's down to him. That's where he needs to evolve. That's where he needs to grow. But don't tell me that in a tight game where you're being suffocated, playing against a team with a low block, or you can have 20 minutes, Gyokeres coming off the bench for 20 minutes. And I'm sure if Havertz wasn't injured, we would have seen the maturation of Gyokeres maybe evolve in a different way. He comes in, he has no preseason. He's been asked to go play in fifth gear right away in a system he doesn't get or understands. He's out injured for 6 weeks, comes back in and loses his flow, right? Havertz would have been playing. Gyokeres would have been bedded in. This is going to be a good thing. And if it gets to May and we're still seeing the same output, the same end results, right, from Victor Gyokeres, we can have a totally different conversation. Let's not kill him just yet. It's January. Bergkamp, Henry, Pires, all evolved. Now, Mikel also has to be able to manage this last part of the season flawlessly, right? You have the options. You've got the players available. People are coming back from injury. Utilize them. Be smart. Maybe don't make like-for-like subs. Maybe be a little bit more creative. I'd like to see that from Mikel a little bit, you know? It's a must in order to have that extra edge over a manager like Pep Guardiola when it comes to those last few games of the season. You know, maybe Miles Lewis-Skelly's not working at left back. And also, how do you make sure that a creative force like Madueke plays? Okay, talk about this plan B. You may think I'm crazy. I asked you guys in the last show. Do you play Saka at left back? On the left? Do you play Gyokeres down the middle, Havertz down the middle, Noni on the right? Like, think about the options that he has and how he can give teams a different look that they've not seen before, right? Is it Eze on the left and Saka on the right and Jesus down the middle? Like, we have options. We have options to surprise teams, to change things up, to make substitutions that aren't just like for like. And whether you like it or not, there's something about Victor Gyokeres that Mikel has liked and has continually pushed. And, you know, now we're going to see a different Arsenal. We're going to see, you know, the creativity and the off-the-ball work from Havertz and Jesus. But let's not also forget that these two players have been out injured a long time. You've got to be careful, especially with Havertz, has had 2 relapses. So people come expecting Kai to save the world when he gets back. I think we need to, like, lower the expectations just a little bit. So I was curious to ask Ben about how that's perceived on the outside world when you're looking at what's going on within our own fan base. Why can't all 3 contribute? Why are we pitting them against each other? They are all part of the squad. We've got the FA Cup coming up. Wigan, we drew in the draw. Very nice. We've got the semi-final against Chelsea on Wednesday. Massive game for us. Get to a final. This is huge. I think it's so important that we get to this Carabao Cup final. Start crossing, you know, different hurdles. Win this Carabao Cup. Let all these players taste what it's like to win together. They will love that feeling and they will have such desires to imagine what it tastes like to win 2 of the big ones. Someone like Kai Havertz coming at this time, who's won one of the big ones, could express and be a leader in the dressing room and help players realize what it feels like to win some of these big trophies. Don't poo-poo the Carabao Cup and what it could mean for our season going forward. So I think it's a great thing. And eventually someone needs to step up and take over this team. Someone needs to be a leader. Martin Odegaard kind of disappeared in the last game, had 3 really good games. Consistency is king. It's going to kill us, right? If we're not consistent, we will not win anything. Consistency, utilizing the depth, and having the mentality. These are the things that we need to carry through now towards the end of the season. And you're going to need players. So stop poo-pooing what Victor Gyokeres isn't doing and start thinking a little bit about what Mikel Arteta wants him to do, wants Jesus, wants Havertz, wants Madueke, Saka, just signed a new contract. This is the Mikel Arteta way. And some people thrive. Zubimendi's been a revelation. He's been sensational since coming to Arsenal. Probably one of the best signings of the season so far. But he also came in with less of a burden and less of a limelight. Kind of came in as a hero for turning down Liverpool and signing for Arsenal, right? And Victor Gyokeres came in with huge bricks on his shoulders. So listen, I'm not sitting here saying he's the answer. All I'm saying is let's not kill the guy. He's our player. Plays for Arsenal. He wears an Arsenal shirt. And I think we should give him a little bit of grace. Because as I said, a little of it is coming across now as clickbait bullying. And I'm not into that. Tierno says, excuses are running out for Gyokeres. He lacks the basics. And I was watching him versus Liverpool. The game could have gone 1 for 3 hours. Gyokeres would not score. Let's see. Peter says, I'd like to see Trossard, Martinelli and Saka start. Lively combination until Havertz is fully fit. Tammy says, pass the ball, Odegaard. Did you see how many times Odegaard passed it to Havertz? And a lot of people will say that's because Kai got in the positions. And you guys know that I have been Kai from day one. Kai is my guy. We've defended him to the hilt when people were bullying him and lambasting him and calling him a donkey. We were hugely supportive and continue to be. And I hope Kai comes back even stronger and even better. United had Solskjaer, Sheringham, Cole and York. All played key roles. Exactly, O'Leary. Exactly. Someone has to be that guy, says Misunderstood Ninja. Cincinnati said Havertz did look good. Mikey says the squad has many faces. Let's see that and big up all of our players. Tierno says Gyokeres is a dead man walking. Andy says, Sophie, I've never seen a striker that does not look like scoring in 90 minutes. Yeah? Did you miss the Shamak chapter? Let's see. Shaitanya says he won't, so Arteta is too risk averse. You know what? Then it will be on him. It will be on him. Demsek says, remember last season, Trossard was a super sub. Now it's Trossard must start. And remember also how many fans wanted Trossard sold in the summer. Right? Listen, I've learned a lot of lessons from talking about players. I had to apologize to Kivio. I've had to apologize to David Raya. But when they play, you got to support them. And some people say, oh, shut up. No, I don't. I don't have to support nothing. Okay, that's on you. But for me, I think he needs... I've actually heard stories about how his teammates think he's shit. How do you know that? And did you hear the way Declan Rice spoke about him? Like, this is a team that has great spirit and they support each other. And this is a team where, you know, Havertz was given the kick, the booster with the penalty kick. Gyokeres buries that penalty. Don't forget also that move, that cross, the first time ball I think it was Zubi to Eza to Gyokeres banging it in the back of the net against Nottingham Forest. That player still exists. Where is he? Where is that guy? I actually think with Eza and Noni on the pitch, Gyokeres would get the ball faster, quicker. We've seen too the Noni to Gyokeres, Gyokeres back to Noni, Noni to Gyokeres, hits the crossbar. That guy still exists. He hasn't gone anywhere. Like, just take it down a notch, yeah? I hope Jesus and Havertz thrive. I hope that everything we wish they bring to the table coming back from injury comes to fruition. I hope that Victor plays better. I hope that our creativity improves, creating chances. It all has to come together, and there's different ways of cooking this Arsenal in the last few months of the season. So, you know, Martinelli scoring a hat-trick in the FA Cup, brilliant against Portsmouth. Martinelli scoring goals in the Champions League. That consistency I talked about, the Premier League. Who's going to be stepping up in the Premier League and being that guy? And we've got options, and Mikel needs to figure out how to move his pieces of cheese with every single game that comes. So remember, Xhaka was a scapegoat. Everyone fell in love with him the following season, right? Martinelli was a scapegoat. For a while, Trossard was a scapegoat. Now we've got Gyokeres as the scapegoat. We're still top of the league. We're still top of the Champions League. Everything is in front of us. And I trust Mikel to manage this process well. The players to keep faith within themselves and each other. And as a fan base, this is it now. This is our year. This is our season. We've got to make it count. And I like it when people come at us and we kind of mobilize as a fan base. But I just don't like seeing these arguments about Victor versus Jesus versus Havertz. All three can play a part. And if one doesn't, so be it. If the other does, amazing. All we want as fans is for the Arsenal to win the title. And that is it. And it's down to Mikel to pull it all together and make it happen. We like to thank Ben Jacobs for popping in the studio. Appreciate each and every one of you. We'll continue this conversation. Misunderstood Ninja says we need to see Havertz and Jesus plus Noni for one game. See, when you start thinking about the different combinations, there's ways to outmaneuver your opponent. We know we can outmuscle teams. Our defense leads the line, right? But that creativity, that spark, when you're going to need the X factor, when you're going to need someone to come up with something in a game that needs magic. We do have magic players. I hear a lot, Arsenal don't have the X factor players. Yes, we do. We absolutely do. And I trust that the confidence will grow. The mentality will not shrink. The mentality will become even greater with this side. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Remember to hit the like button. Yes, for sure. What else did I want to talk about? I'm running out of time today, but I did want to mention Mertesacker leaving. And he's done a phenomenal job in his role since taking over. You talk about players like Nwaneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly coming through and Max Dowman and the role that Mertesacker has played in the academy and how he interacts with the players and the families and the way he transmits the Arsenal culture. It's, you know, obviously he has ambition. He wants to move on. We don't quite know what he's moving on to, but he does leave a fantastic legacy. And just because he's leaving, it doesn't mean he's not going to come back to the club at some point. Who knows? He could come back as a future manager one day. But clearly, you know, after a few years of doing the same thing, you feel like you've reached a pinnacle. and we wish him the best of luck. He goes on with our blessing, and I don't think anyone will ever forget the 2017 FA Cup final, where he put on a display for the ages. His signature seminal moment for the Arsenal. Aside from leaving the legacy that he has evolved the academy to new heights, he is one that we will thank for his service, and maybe we will see him one day. Terence, I have one too. Here it is. Me and the BFG at the Emirates. This was taken 2-3 years ago, while I was happily in the hospitality, enjoying myself, and he walked past and we started talking. Look, I may be short, okay? And for those listening on Apple and Spotify right now, I'm showing a picture of me and per Mertesacker. He's tall. Let me tell you, you need a ladder to talk to this guy. He is huge. He's so huge. I tell you. Oh, it's a Dan Potts raid. Thanks, Potsy. Appreciate that. Although I'm going to leave in a minute, but maybe we'll stay for a few. We had Ben Jacobs on. For those of you just joining, you could rewind it and start listening to Ben Jacobs. But this is me with Mertesacker. It's not Photoshop. It's real. It's a real picture. I mean, I don't know what to make of it now when I look at it. But yeah, he's 6'5". I'm 5'2". Okay. I'm not blessed with, but when I wear my stilettos, I'm a good 5'7". Hey, come on now. By the way, Potsy's on the show on Friday. Yeah, we've got a get off the Potsy show coming up for you on Friday. You're not going to want to miss that. We've got Jordan Jarrett Bryan as well, who is going to be on the show on Thursday. I believe James from Loose Cannons is either this week or next week. We've got a show live every single week. Okay. So we got Jordan on Thursday. We've got Potsy on Friday. We're going to do the post-game show. Hopefully we'll beat Chelsea. We've got to win that game. I want to win that game so badly. I want to get to the Carabao Cup so badly. Some of you may think I'm crazy. I know I keep saying this, but I just think it's the making of the team in a different way. And we owe them, that 10-man game. I know it left a bad taste in the mouth for a lot of you. A lot of you thought that we let ourselves down by not beating a 10-man Chelsea. And maybe we did. But the way they went off and celebrated as though they'd won the title after that, and then basically took a gigantic dump. I mean, they've fallen so fast and furious since that match. It's really quite unbelievable. And I'll say this again. I know that the fan base can be divided on a lot of different issues. Okay. When you look at the mess of Manchester United, the mess at Tottenham, the mess at Chelsea, right? Now, Chelsea have been able to win titles with a managerial revolving door. We're not going to sit here and make out that's not worked out for them, because it has. It's worked out greatly for Chelsea, right? Tottenham, what are we going to say about them? They won the Europa League. It's still a trophy, but they're a mess. They're a hot mess. In the league, they've been a mess for a very long time. The fans hate the owners. The fans hate the new manager. Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson, what a fall from grace. Can you think of a brand that has fallen from grace as greatly as Manchester United? And getting dumped out of the FA Cup, they're dumped out of the League Cup, they're not in Europe, they're playing the least amount of games they have since the turn of light when it was invented. So when you look at Arsenal, and even if you still have doubts about the owners, even if you still have doubts about Mikel Arteta, you've got to actually give the Cronkies, Josh, some credit here for sticking with the plan, not deviating from the plan. Mikel Arteta doesn't have a job if he was United, Tottenham, or Chelsea manager right now. Not a chance in France. Does he have a job? Absolutely not. But at a time where even I was thinking, what are they doing? Where is this guy going? You know, sometimes it's good that people who run sports teams and businesses do it and you don't, because as a passionate fan, sometimes you want change. You think change is going to bring the shiny toy all the time. It's the same thing right now. Victor's not the shiny toy anymore. Surplus to requirements. It's like the sport rich kid gets it all for Christmas, tosses it aside. What's next? Let's just like calm the chaos here. We just have to win the title. I don't care who plays. I don't care if we're boring. I don't care if we win 1-0. I don't care if the performance is crap. I honestly can tell you that this season, I care less about performance. I want points. I want the monkey off our back. Win the title. Win it beautiful if you want. Win it ugly if you want. Just win the title. The narrative is never going to change around Mikel Arteta unless he wins the title. He's been given every tool, every resource to make it a success this season. Look at the squad. Look at the depth. Look at the players available. Stop talking about injuries. Every single team has to deal with injuries. Okay, sure, fine. Is it fair? No. I mean, Liverpool lost their 150 gazillion pound signing, right? Havertz has been out since last season. Jesus has been out since last season. We're talking about this season now, right? Noni was out for a bit. Saka was out for a bit. Odegaard was out for a bit. But you plan so you don't fail the same way you have season after season after season. You have got the players. You're surviving without Saliba and Gabriel and Mosquera and Nkapie coming in now. Now Nkapie and Mosquera are out. Saliba and Gabriel are flying. Thank goodness. Previous seasons, Arsenal do not weather that storm. Absolutely not. There's no way we survive. But we are, and we're top of the table. Despite all of that, we're top of the table. There's a lot to be said about that. Jim says, just win the title, Arteta, or you are out. Mikey says he's earned the resources. Trevor says Sophie Arteta would have lost his job with them continuous eight places, no doubt. Maybe. Demsek says Man United could get Rooney as part of the management team. Wow. There's another player that doesn't make a good manager, right? Let's see. Misunderstood says Rossignol thinks he can beat Arsenal. Of course he's gonna say he can beat Arsenal. What's he gonna do? Sit there and in his first major press conference against the team that hopefully does not get the new manager bounce? This is huge on Wednesday. I know that some people are going to think I'm mental. It's the Carabao Cup. So what are you talking about? It's not the semi-final of the Champions League. No. You cannot let this upstart manager get a win over us. We can't allow Chelsea to get to the final of the Carabao Cup. We have to be the ones who are there. Tide is changing. You want to prove you're the authority now? You want to prove that the shift is really happening? You beat Chelsea when they're in a moment of fragility, and you go to Wembley and you get this done. That's it. Wednesday needs to be the first 11. I agree. Get to the final. None of this. Mikel's ruthless. He's not going to be like, oh, but these are the players that brought me here. No. Who are the players that are going to get you to the final? Who are the players who are going to deliver? That's what needs to be happening. And it's true. The poo-poos are waiting for us to fail. Yanto says, regardless of what we may think and feel about Arteta, we have to get behind him till the end of this season at least. Then we shall see. We have to get behind the team. Get behind each other. This isn't me going soft. This isn't me Remember, I did that episode, Don't Tell Fans How to Support Their Club. I hope I'm not being a hypocrite now by telling you how to support the club. I'm not. I'm just telling you to get behind everything and everyone. And at the end of the season, there's going to be plenty of time to poo-poo things, to praise things, depending on how things go. Between now and May, the football universe is going to be against Arsenal ferociously, more so than ever. You haven't seen anything yet. If the Gyokeres thing continues, that's going to be one narrative. Hopefully Kai Havertz will come back and play well, because you don't want that to be another narrative. You need Calafiori fit. Let's hope he can come back. Pray that Timber, Saliba, and Gabriel stay fit, because without them, we're nothing. Right? We need each other. We need our players. We need to get behind Mikel Arteta and the squad to close this deal, to shut everyone up, to silence the critics, to stop the darts flying our way. It will never happen unless we win. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to win. And it can start with the Carabao Cup. Right. I appreciate the Dan Potts raid, and for everyone who joined the show. If you haven't subscribed to the Highbury Squad, please do so. You can rewind and listen to Ben Jacobs talk a little bit about non-Arsenal transfer news, and also Nwaneri, Benjamin White, and a little Victor Gyokeres as well. And we will also have Jordan Jarrett Bryant on Thursday. We've got Potsy on Friday. We've got the post-game show on Wednesday. And tomorrow, look out for the live show. I'll list it on the community page. Just waiting for the guests to fall into place before I say anything. But we've got some cool stuff, fun stuff coming up, and you won't want to miss it. If you're listening on audio, make sure you subscribe so you do not miss a show. What I'd like to do next time is bring you guys into the studio so we can have a conversation about all of this. I just want to win. And I think that's the common thread. The common thread for all of us is we want to win. I'm at that point with how we win. I don't care. I just want to win. We've seen plenty of champagne football over the years, guys. It's gotten us some FA Cups. It's bought us some finishing top 4 love coupons, getting into the Champions League, right? It's great. I love that. But we want to win. We want to reestablish ourselves, regain a winning culture, a rebirth. Arsenal 2.0, finally closing the deal. Mentality monsters. Win now, win ugly, win beautiful. I don't care. But it'll set this club up to have that pedigree behind them where they can move forward with some gravitas, where they can move forward where there's no finger pointing. It'll be a different ecosystem as fans. It'll be a different playing field. It'll be far more enjoyable for us. Sure, we love our club. Of course we do. If they win one of the big ones, this generation that hasn't really seen Arsenal win anything of any note, oh, trust me, everything changes. Your life as an Arsenal fan changes. The experiences you will have, the anecdotes, the stories you will tell, the celebrations you will enjoy. We still look back, my generation, at great moments. We've been to the parades. We've had those nights. We've had elation. And of course, we've all been there at the depths of despair as well. But it's time for this new generation to experience what we have. And sometimes when we talk about those days, it's because we haven't been able to see it in the present. It's great to win an FA Cup. I love the FA Cup. We're talking about the Premier League and the Champions League. If Mikel Arteta delivers the Champions League to this football club, he will have done something no other Arsenal manager has done. That's big. That's huge. That's what he should be aiming for. There's never been a better time in football. There's a wobble going on where the monsters are in a recycle phase, a regrouping phase. They still have great players, but there's something off in their ecosystem. And if we don't capitalize on it this season, it'll be the greatest regret I think we'll ever have. Manchester City were really, really good in the seasons where we lost the title. I don't care what anyone says. Liverpool were really good last season. Sure, we had injuries, but you still have to go out and get the points and win the games. And they did that. They had an architecture, a core, a foundation, experienced players, a few world-class players to deliver the big one. Well, we've lost and we've learned. Now's the time. Our time. Mikel's time. The players, Declan Rice, Saka, going into a World Cup year with their countries, Martin Odegaard, captain of Norway. You've experienced the failure at the highest level. And now there's wobbles, maybe other than Bayern Munich. There's teams that have some issues. You're still going to have to beat those teams because those teams had the experience to rise to their greatest level on the best of days. No doubt about that. But you've got to take advantage of their weaknesses. You can't become weak in their presence. Don't show them too much respect. We did that against Liverpool at home. Once again, we showed them too much respect. When Mikel talks about our players playing with courage, I love that. But Mikel, as a manager, you too have to exemplify courage. It's the extra edge. It's what takes you from finishing second to being first. And he has to show the most courage of anyone. And these fans will follow him to the end of the earth if he delivers the big one. Everyone's waiting for it. And if he doesn't, we'll see how that shakes out. All right, kids. I was only going to stay on for half an hour, and here we are, 1 hour, 16 minutes in, and we got into a little bit of a football wrap here. But I love you guys. Thanks, Runs with Cows. I feel it. I've been off the rails as a fan. I've been calm as a fan. This season, this is the one. It's now or never, baby, as Elvis Presley once sang. And I tell you, those players are going to want to hold those trophies real tight. Okay, guys, until tomorrow, I'll love you and leave you. Thanks again to the raid, Potsy, at Ease Squaddies. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. Thanks again to Ben Jacobs, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, kids.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Cut the show in half, right? Make sure you listen to the end of the show, everyone. If you're at the end, well done.